looking at one of the most dangerous places in the world. Looks pretty common, certainly not very threatening. If you're like most drivers, you travel to thousands and thousands of these places every year.
And if you're like most people, you don't give any of them much thought. What are we talking about? Intersections.
Let's stop for a second and define intersections. This seems obvious, but most people don't define them broadly enough. They come in many forms, but the common element is that they are places that traffic joins from different directions. They are entrances to shopping centers. They're where alleys and access ways meet with streets. They're intersecting roadways that present unusual challenges. They are where two or more large city arteries join. They can be the street meeting the railway. They're found where two country roads come together. Technically, they are merging traffic on major highways, and they are even where your driveway meets the street in front of your residence. The point is that many people don't give intersections the respect and consideration they deserve. And with nearly half of forward motion collisions happening in or around intersections, they deserve a lot of respect.
Some drivers, especially those that have yet to have an intersection collision, approach intersections with a sense of indifference because they have not had to pay a price for their own or for someone else's mistakes. Unfortunately, we see this lack of concern in our on-road classes every day. In a way, each time these people thoughtlessly pass through an intersection and emerge undamaged, they are rewarded for their lack of attention. They build a subconscious confidence that they can do it again and again, until the odds catch up to them. They have a collision that could have been easily avoided. Any intersection you may enter today might be the one in which you will be caught. Just knowing that this year tens of thousands of people will die in intersections just like the next one you see may provide you with the incentive to use the simple common sense ideas that follow. These vehicles are all going to come through this intersection. What you need to know is whether they will come through at the same time you arrive from another direction. Let's pave the way to safe travel through intersections by using Smith System's 5 keys. Brent?
Thanks, Lori. Key number 1 is aim high in steering. This key encourages people to look at least 15 seconds up the road as they travel. Key 2 is get the big picture. Obtain and maintain a good following distance. Use this space to open up your viewing area to the front, sides, and to the rear. Keep your eyes moving is our 3rd key. Good eye activity keeps your information up to date and accurate. Our 4th key is leave yourself an out. Space is all that insulates you from trouble. If you keep space around you, and if you remain aware of its size and shape, you'll have an out should the unexpected occur. Our last key is make sure they see you. This key is about communication among people in the traffic picture. The artful use of your communication equipment can keep you out of trouble.
Intersections are dynamic areas. Pedestrians and vehicles may be moving in all directions at a variety of speeds. There are traffic control devices and signs. There are weather and lighting issues. And there are people determined to get through the area as quickly as possible, even if doing so may involve questionable judgment. Consequently, a driver is called upon to take in a great deal of information and to make numerous, accurate decisions very quickly. The less time and information people have to make decisions, the more likely they are to make mistakes. As you approach an intersection, use key 1 to scan it early, at least 15 seconds before you arrive. Look for traffic control devices. Look for pedestrians, construction, people about to change directions, or anything that may prove to be a hazard. By projecting your eyes well ahead into the intersection, you give yourself time to analyze what you see, and you free your mind to handle the unexpected when you arrive.
If you were turning at an intersection, your speed has a lot to do with the safety of the maneuver. Since you are changing direction, you are changing the flow of visual information. It's likely that most of what you will now see will be new input. And because the information will be fresh, it will take time to absorb and act upon. One way to partially overcome this problem is to aim high into your turn. Don't let your windshield be your only frame of view. Move your eyes around the corner as you change direction. And while it may seem obvious, the best tip here is to gauge the speed of your turn by your ability to take in all of the information you need to avoid conflict, not only on the ability of your vehicle to handle the turn at a higher speed. And this same advice helps you allow for intersections in which your visibility is obstructed. If you can't see into and evaluate an intersection that you are about to enter, your risks increase. You can partially overcome the danger by reducing your speed. A lower speed won't remove vision barriers, but it will help you keep your vehicle under control should the unexpected occur.
If you watch, you will notice that almost everyone, as they approach and pass through intersections, will keep their heads and eyes straight ahead, as if that was the only direction from which danger could come. And if you think about it, you know that the front is just one of the 4 or more directions from which you are exposed and vulnerable. Naturally, quickly approaching vehicles from right angles put you at a considerable risk. So do vehicles approaching from the rear if you're forced to brake suddenly. Your best solution is to scan every intersection as thoroughly as possible. And, of course, watch your mirrors. Check at least one of your mirrors every 5 to 8 seconds, and don't let your eyes become lazy at these critical junctures. You can't deal with a problem unless you first knew it exists. And active eyes are your best source of information as you approach and enter an intersection. Our suggestion is to use keys 2 and 3. These keys will also help you when you are among the first several vehicles stopped at an intersection. Here, because you're just beginning to accelerate, you can scan a little deeper into each side of the intersection. We suggest that you look left, right, and left again. This allows you to detect any latecomers before they have a chance to do any damage.
Since a collision cannot take place unless 2 or more objects attempt to occupy the same space at the same time, as long as you have space, you will not have a collision. Our recommendation is to plan for space around your vehicle as you approach an intersection. Space is your out. With space, you have options, and when things are happening quickly, options can be valuable. And when you stop, leave about a car length, or about 15 feet in front of you. With space in front, you may be able to avoid involving a third vehicle and the front end of your vehicle if you're struck from the rear. And should the car or truck ahead of you stall, you'll be able to go around without having to back your vehicle. Doing this with a truck or a bus is a bit more difficult. For heavy equipment, we recommend about 25 feet. The formula is similar when you are first at a traffic light. Here, 15 feet will work for large and small vehicles. With a space cushion in place ahead, you may be providing for your safety and for the safety of unsuspecting pedestrians should you be hit from the rear. In addition, if a large truck needs to make a tight turn in front of you, your space cushion will benefit both of you. And speaking of trucks, the gap you provide yields another benefit. Countless times every year, truck drivers get too close to small vehicles ahead of them at a stop. When the traffic lights turn green, the small vehicle drivers may not be paying attention, or their vehicles may stall. Meanwhile, the truck drivers, on occasion, might have forgotten about the vehicles just a few feet ahead of them. Without direct visibility, the results are predictable. Good space in front heads off these types of conflicts. These incidents are always preventable. Vehicle placement is the key.
Timing the lights doesn't mean being ready to accelerate quickly into the intersection as soon as you see the light change to green. Rather, the use of your knowledge as you time lights allows you to stack the deck in your favor. Most major intersection collisions occur in the first few seconds following a light change. Those are the seconds, given a choice, in which you might try to avoid being caught out in the open by a person that runs a light. It all starts with good eye lead time and good anticipation. Look well ahead to forecast light cycles. When you have an option, consider entering an intersection when the green light cycle is somewhat mature. By doing so, you may avoid joining the packs of vehicles that collect at a red light waiting for it to change. These are the people who are statistically most vulnerable to collisions during the first few seconds of a new green light. By waiting until the light is a little older, you may also allow groups of cars to form at the cross-traffic red light. When these packs are in place, it becomes difficult for the drivers to run red lights. As you pace the lights, one of your objectives should be to avoid stopping unnecessarily or suddenly. And not only does this approach save fuel and maintenance expenses, it also helps you to avoid the possibility of a rear-end collision. Those are benefits you realize both professionally and personally.
That's true, Lori. And as long as you keep rolling and remain aware of your surroundings, you can take evasive action. And once you stop, you lose your ability to maneuver until you can regain your mobility. Again, eye lead time will help you accomplish the goal. When you anticipate light changes, you won't often be caught by surprise. Accomplished chess players perform well in their game by planning several moves ahead, by anticipating the moves of others, and by remaining alert to change. These are skills we encourage advanced drivers to develop. And one last thought about lights before we move on. We've all seen it too many times. More and more people are running through red lights. Others seem to read stop as slow and yield as go. These behaviors put every one of us at extreme risk. Traffic is heavy. The wait at lights seems long. Frustrated, busy, aggressive, and sometimes immature people don't want to be delayed. Yet if these people stopped for every light that our laws say they should, the difference in their workday productivity would be negligible. But the cost is high and the collision statistics are mounting. Each of us has a responsibility to ourselves, our families, and to those around us. We all live with the same set of traffic rules, and for the health and safety of all of us, those rules should be obeyed.
Their parents may have taught them to look both ways before crossing streets, but children and even adults sometimes forget. It seems amazing that with nothing more than their clothes to protect them, some people are willing to challenge motor vehicles. Whether it's because they are confident that the driver will see them, they are preoccupied, or just irresponsible, it is your obligation to help them survive. Don't get into the groove of looking just for other vehicles because motor vehicle pedestrian incidents are among the most common of recorded intersection collisions. Even if the right-of-way is not legally theirs, let them have it. If they are crossing your path, insisting on the right-of-way is certainly not worth a human life.
Traffic laws from around the world require people to signal their intentions a minimum distance prior to their turns. Even if they remember the number, drivers are often unsure of what 100 meters or 300 or 500 feet really looks like. While it is certainly not our advice to disregard the law, it is important to keep in mind that your actions behind the wheel should reflect your current situation. When you're moving quickly, it is often wise to signal relatively early, so that the people behind and in front of you are given time to see and interpret your signal and work with the information you have provided. Whether you are moving quickly or slowly, your signal should be timed to send the message you need to send when you need to send it. For many people, turn signals are just formalities, something they were taught to use when they learned to drive. For others, signals are an inconvenience, something other people should use. And for still others, signals can be deadly weapons. They are inadvertently used to send false or misleading information. And when people believe, without thought, in the turn signals of others, they can be rewarded with a collision. Don't accept the message received from other drivers' turn signals at face value. The only thing you really know when you see a turn signal come on is that the light bulb works. Any other assumption could be a deadly mistake. The important thing to remember is that turn signals can be a valuable tool for use in avoiding traffic collisions, but only when they are used by people who know how to use them. Each time you use your turn indicator, think about when you should activate it and about what it will be saying to others who may be watching you from nearly any direction. Your message, if sent at the wrong time or to the wrong person, however well-intentioned, could assist another driver in making a dangerous mistake.
There are exceptions, particularly if you drive a large vehicle. But in general, we suggest you use a concept called lane-to-lane turning. For example, if you are turning left, you should turn into the left lane of the road you are entering. A right turn should be made into the right lane. This is how you benefit from these actions. First, in multiple turn lane situations, you will never be confused. Even if you didn't realize that the lane next to you was also a turn lane, your habitual move into the left lane will compensate for your oversight. Or the issue may be that another driver assumes that there are 2 turn lanes when there is really only one.
If you turn lane to lane, you will probably avoid conflict. If you sweep into the middle or right lane, you may find yourself competing for space with another vehicle. And if you happen to be turning onto a road at the same time as a person coming from another direction, your commitment to a lane-to-lane turn will help you avoid crossing paths. While there is little you can do about what other people do or do not know, you can take the easy steps we've talked about to keep you out of danger as you drive.
That's right, Brent. To close our presentation, we're going to ask you to work with us to evaluate an intersection collision from a 5-key point of view. We have asked a driver who was involved in a very common collision to share his experience with us. To help you understand what took place in his collision, we have recreated the incident in animated form. Watch carefully.
I was driving on Sarnet Street on my way to my next stop. Because traffic was light, there was no other vehicles in front of or behind me for some distance. I was approaching a red light at Barrington Avenue, and I needed to make a right turn. There was a car waiting at the light in the right turn lane. As I approached, it was clear that the driver wasn't turning right, even though there didn't seem to be any traffic she needed to yield to. As I drove up behind her, I noticed the driver of the car was on her cell phone. I don't think she was paying much attention to what was going on around her. Anyway, I pulled into the turn lane behind her. I guess she woke up as the truck and a couple of cars were passing in front of her. She saw the truck, but for some reason didn't see the car right behind it. She started to move in behind the truck, and then she realized that there was more traffic, so she stopped. When I saw her move, I looked to my left to see what traffic might be coming. There was a quickly approaching vehicle that ended up having to stop for the light that had just turned red in his direction. I'd seen the lady in front of me begin to move before I glanced left. I assumed she would have finished her turn. I didn't see her stop again. Meanwhile, I was rolling up to the front position in the turn lane. I tapped her bumper and shoved her ahead just a little. The collision was mainly her fault. She wasn't paying attention, so she didn't see what she needed to see before she made her move. I was cited for the collision, but it was mostly her mistake.
Please take a minute to analyze what you've seen and heard. If your knowledge of the Smith system is broad enough, try to classify Sid's mistakes by the keys that could have been used to prevent the collision.
If what you have seen in this show is your only exposure to the 5 keys, your evaluation need only identify Sid's errors. Though others in the animation made mistakes, please confine your analysis to mistakes you believe Sid made.
Watch one more time, then please pause the presentation for analysis.
Okay, let's analyze this collision from Sid's point of view. He blames the car driver for the collision, and he's partially correct. But he made a few errors as well. First, when he came to a stop, he failed to leave enough space in front of his vehicle. The space that he should have left might have insulated him against the errors that followed. Some might argue that leaving the gap in front would have left the rear end of the truck in the traffic flow. In fairness, that is a consideration. But every time we enter the traffic flow, we must adapt our skills to the situation. This is true even when the streets we occupy are not properly designed from a safety point of view. Sid mentioned that traffic was light and that there was no one behind him. At the traffic light, there was someone in front of him. That is where he needed the space at the time.
Yeah, our decisions need to be based on our current surroundings and circumstances. And given the circumstances at the time, there is no question that space in front of Sid's vehicle would have been of value. We think the first three keys also have some application. Earlier, we suggested that drivers should aim high around the corners before committing their vehicles to turns. It appears that Sid failed to do so. A simple glance to his right before he hit the accelerator would have prevented this incident. We selected key 2 here because it would be difficult to argue that Sid had the big picture before he began to accelerate into the intersection. Sid said that the driver in front of him wasn't paying attention and that she had failed to see what she should have seen. Perhaps the same oversights were occurring in both vehicles. And key 3 also played a role here. It might seem that we are covering the same point in several ways, but there is a separate message here. Recall that Sid mentioned that he was watching a rapidly approaching car that ended up stopping at the light. As soon as he was sure that the other vehicle was not a problem, Sid began to move his vehicle. This was probably a fixed stare situation. Sid was staring at one thing of interest or importance and missing other important information. Good eye activity prevents many driving problems. It would have prevented this one.
We hope you will use the information contained in this presentation. Remain aware. Scan the area thoroughly. Manage your speed. Plan for space. Time the lights and use your turn signals wisely. These suggestions should help you arrive alive. Thank you for listening.